Hey, what's up, everybody?
What's going on?
This is Tony.
And I'm Jenny.
And we are Lido Loca, and this is the Lido Loca podcast.
Yes, episode 15?
Episode 15.
Wow.
Well, Jenny, it is Sunday, Easter Sunday.
Easter Sunday.
Happy Easter, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. Now, you know that we are basically a cruising podcast, but if you've been tracking along with what's going on in the world, cruising has come to a standstill.
It has.
Jenny, how does it make you feel that cruising has come to a standstill?
Well, I mean, it's everything, right? Like, people are quarantined, people are staying home, social distancing. It's like the whole shebang. It's something that I don't think I've ever experienced in my lifetime. It's really just things that I've read in history books.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I wanted to start the podcast out. I know that we're going to be here talking about things that are kind of fun and forward-looking, things that are non-essential like cruising. Man, there's a lot of people that are suffering with loss in families, and it's really a terrible time. So our goal here is not to make light of the terrible time, but maybe to offer some positivity, some fun, just so that there's a little bit of a distraction. So when you hear us talk about things today, know that we're not mindless about the things that are going on. We just wanted to offer our voice and hopefully lift up people out there that are going through a hard time. So before we get into it, I just really want to say that our thoughts and prayers go out to people that are being challenged right now. And my hope is that it will get better. It does seem like things are moving in a better direction, but I think we still have a long road ahead of us.
A very long road ahead of us, and like you said, it is Easter Sunday, and this past week was also a holy week for, it was Passover.
Passover.
And the history of Passover is the plague that you prayed that the plague would pass over your home.
That's right. And, that's really kind of the hope right now is that whatever it takes, we want this thing to pass over so that life can get back to normal.
Yeah, they didn't want their oldest son to get the plague, so.
It kind of hits close to home, right?
It does.
Again, we know a lot of people that are struggling with loss, and even in our family, Jenny's older brother struggled with the virus to the point that he was on the ventilator in ICU. And fortunately, he's doing better. So that's a big plus.
Absolutely, it has passed over the home of the oldest son. So.
Yeah. So it's a wild time. So, but we do want to come and we want to talk about cruising. We want to talk about things that are going on. Cruising got some challenges. An interesting week in cruise news. One of the first places, of course, to struggle with the virus is China. And over in Asia, cruising shut down pretty quickly. But a Chinese company, Genting, did come up with some new health protocols that they're going to put in place once they start sailing again. I don't know that this is a huge indication that they're getting ready to sail, but it does look like they're thinking about sailing, and they have these new health protocols. So there's a couple of these protocols I was interested to see what you thought about. First and foremost, look, I don't know what they can do at embarkation to make sure that you're safe. I've heard some people say that cruising shouldn't happen again until there's a vaccine or there has to be some sort of extra level of testing. What do you think, Jenny? Like,
listen,
when you go,
I love cruising, but you know what? I love people's lives much better, and I don't, and I just don't want us to get out there too soon.
Right.
And we've seen some of the ships still out in the ocean struggling to get back to get sick people off of the ship. And, I just don't want to see that. I don't want us to go back soon too quick. But I also don't want us to, put it out so long that it's just too long. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, at some point there's going to be a time where if this goes on too long, the cruise companies are going to have a hard time restarting, a hard time having a business. And so 100%, everybody's health comes first. But at the end of the day, we would like to see cruising come back and come back strong. But I think it's going to be a challenge because I think there's going to be a little bit of a stigma associated with this virus. For me personally, I think they're going to have to do something to on the front end, like at embarkation, to make people more comfortable about getting on the cruise ship. Now, what Genting is proposing is that they do a temperature scan and that people fill out the health questionnaire. But the challenge for me is that they were already doing that, and people that were asymptomatic would be able to pass the temperature scan, but still get on the cruise ship. I speculated a little bit if it was possible to test people for the virus quickly. I wonder if they would do that at embarkation. Would you put up with a longer embarkation? Well, first of all, that's the question. So do you think that everybody should be tested for the current virus? And look, there's a lot of things that can happen on a cruise ship. You can't test for everything, but the thing that's first and foremost in our minds right now is the current virus. Do you think the cruise line should test everybody before they get on the cruise ship, if that's even feasible?
Well, I wonder also if it would help with, norovirus and, all of those other viruses that you have a chance of coming in contact with when you're cruising. I think that it would bring up the cruising prices for sure, but I mean, you can't put a price tag on someone's health and safety.
Yeah. So if tomorrow, if everything kind of cleared up tomorrow, if they had a test that within 5 or 10 minutes you would know whether or not you have the current virus, how would you feel if all of a sudden your embarkation took an hour longer and your cruise cost $100 more? Do you think you would be more apt to do that because you'd feel safer, or is that going to make cruising a little more challenging if you have all these extra steps?
So I believe that it has to go that way, maybe.
Yeah.
Just like in the United States, our life was never the same after 9/11.
That's true.
So I really think that this is something in our history that we will never be the same after. So, I mean, after 9/11, there's a lot more that goes into embarkation anyway. So I'm sure at that time, it increased the time to get on the ship.
Yeah.
So, this is where we are in our lives. And if it's for safety and health, then yes.
Yeah, it's unprecedented, right? Like you said earlier, this has never happened before, at least in our lifetime.
Right.
We can go back and look at other plagues and stuff like that. But, here in 2020 with this happening, there's so much more access to information. So you can sit 24 hours a day and kind of track along with this thing. And yeah, what was interesting is I talked to our fellow cruiser, Don Terrace, who lives in Canada. And Canada, so in the United States, we have states, right? We live in Florida. We used to live in another state.
Right.
In Canada, they have provinces, and they're not allowed to go from one province to another.
Wow.
And that's never happened in his life. So for us, that would mean we couldn't leave Florida.
Wow.
Could you imagine that?
Well, yeah. I mean, because all of our kids are in different states. So how, that would not be good.
It would be crazy. He said they have the police are at the bridges, they're at the borders. They can't go from state to state. So
wow.
I don't know. So another thing that Genting is doing that I actually kind of like is they are ending self-service buffets. Now, this is not the only cruise line that's done that. There's some other cruise lines that have always had buffets where the crew members serve you. But on Genting, the crew members are going to serve you at the buffet wearing a mask and gloves.
Wow.
So I think it's great that you don't have to worry about people grabbing the food or people touching the tongs. I don't know if this is the way that other cruise lines will go, but I kind of like it. What do you feel about the end of the self-service buffet?
I mean, I love that. There's no fighting me for that. Yeah, I think that's great.
Would the mask and gloves freak you out a little bit, or do you think so?
No, so I think on when we were on Princess, they came around and gave us our drinks. and they gave us, coffee, our drinks, and then even at the buffet, a lot of their items were served to you. So, I mean, I think that's great. There won't be, you go into the buffet, there won't be too many lines to get your drink, and you can just sit down, and I think it would be great.
I think it'll extend to things like self-serve ice cream.
Right.
I think it's fine. The one concern,
and we've been on ships though that there is no self-serve ice cream. Like, you have to go on a line anyway to get the ice cream. So
the only concern that I've heard is that if they don't have enough crew members, could it make the lines longer? But again, that's one of those things. If that is and especially like with norovirus, the buffet is one of those places where the norovirus spreads heavily.
Right.
And so, I mean, I think at the end of the day, if it makes people safer, that's a positive.
Well, and I mean, you have to think of it like this, right? So that one person, even if it makes your line longer, yes, they're going to be people that are just ridiculous when it comes to the line and not too happy. But like for me, I'd rather wait in that line and know that the person that's serving me and is touching the tongs and then maybe could possibly touch my food has washed their hands, is wearing a mask, is wearing gloves, rather than the person that's in front of me that they just came out from the bathroom and I don't know if they washed their hands or not. And then I have to touch a tong after them. Yeah,
that's a good point. Like with the crew, there's definitely a work procedure in place that will require those folks to be clean.
Right.
And you can't really force the guests to do it. I mean, 100%. We've been on cruise ships and seen people leave the restroom without washing their hands.
Disgusting stuff.
Yeah, it's a little gross. Another interesting thing they're doing with this new health protocol in Genting is in some of the public areas like the theater, the lounges, some of the bars, they're going to limit the amount of people that can go in there. So, we've been on cruise ships where, like, if you think of the time we were on the Oasis of the Seas and we saw cats, it was standing room only.
Right.
So now maybe in those kind of theaters, they might reduce that by 50% so that people can have a little distance. I'm not opposed to it, but I think that could cause a challenge too, because even on the like when we went to see Cats, there were people that didn't get to see it because there wasn't enough room. I think that one could cause troubles, like half full bar, half full lounge.
Yeah, but I think at that point, what's going to have to happen? Everything's going to start shifting, right? Things are going to just be different. Instead of 2 shows for Cats, maybe they're going to have to do 4 shows.
Right.
So the employees of the cruise lines, they may have to work a little harder for people's safety. So
that's an interesting thing. Like maybe the burden is going to fall on the crew members, and of course there's always some question whether they're being treated well enough or not. I don't know if I don't know. It's so funny. Like during this shutdown, there's so many things that we used to talk about that we don't even talk about now. Like, should you prepay your gratuities?
Right.
Should you overtip? Those kind of things. I think once cruising starts again, those questions will come up in full force, because I do believe that, the majority of any of these new policies, procedures, protocols, I do believe they're going to add more work to the crew member.
I believe that, or maybe there's going to have to be more crew and less passengers. Who knows?
Yeah.
But, I do feel like also in this time, we are really seeing how the cruise lines take care of their crew.
Right.
They're still being paid. They're still on the ships, and they're still being kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, we've seen some cruise lines cut their crew short, send the non-essential crew home. But it does sound like that the crew that they're keeping on the cruise ship is being well taken care of.
Right, and they're taking care of their contracts and, that sort of stuff. So
yeah, it's a wild time. Interestingly enough, just yesterday, the CDC, and a lot of people have questions about what role the CDC plays in the United States. During this outbreak, Health and Human Services have delegated power to the CDC, which allows them to do things like oversee quarantine. And they've always had some say as to who could come in and out of the cruise ports. So basically, they're able to shut down the cruise ports if they need to. Back on March the 14th, they made a no-sail order, which did just that. It said that cruise ships would not be allowed to embark or or disembark passengers at American cruise ports. And just yesterday, or I guess it was on Thursday night, just a couple days ago, they came out with an extension of this no sail order, and potentially 100 days extension where cruising may not start back up till July. Now, I know between us, we didn't necessarily think that cruising would start up that soon anyways, but it's interesting to see now that the CDC is coming out and saying that really there were 3 conditions. If all of a sudden, if the current virus is no longer declared a public emergency, a public health emergency,
right,
then cruising could start. Or at the discretion of the director of the CDC, if all of a sudden that guy woke up and said, okay, cruising is cool, that can happen. If those first 2 conditions aren't met, then the third one is this 100-day extension of the no sail order. So we might not see cruising at least start until July. I don't think it's going to happen in July anyways. A lot of the major ports are already closed in July. If you think about Canada, that kind of thing.
Well, Canada reopens, I believe, July 1st.
July the 1st.
Right.
And so if that turns up again, then maybe there'll be some sort of cruising. But 100 days from now is well past the middle of July. So
Yeah.
it doesn't sound like cruising is going to happen in July here in the U.S. Maybe it happens in September. But
what about the whole month of August?
oh yeah, I guess I skipped August, right? There's only one major event that happens in August that's worth mentioning.
Is that like the 22nd or something like that?
What happens on the 22nd?
Or
Refresh
maybe
my
it's
memory.
the 11th, because that's my mom's birthday. Just saying. Of course, it is August 22nd, the day the love of my life was born. That's you, TB.
Yeah, so I don't know when cruising is going to start again. Us personally, we have a cruise scheduled in June that hasn't been canceled.
Right.
We have a cruise in July
That has not been canceled.
that has not been canceled yet, and then we also have a cruise in October.
Right.
Realistically, I think that October might be the first cruise that happens.
For us, I think that may be correct.
Of those 3 cruises, how do you work daily with the cruise lines? How's it been with the cruise lines during all this? What's it been like?
I want to keep it PG. It's not been, each different cruise line, some have been better than the others to speak with. The problem is that the cruise lines have brought out everybody to man their phones. So a lot of them do not know policy. So you can, and I know some of my clients get a little frustrated because I'm going by policy. I'm not going by what someone on the phone is telling me, because you can call and they give you 3 different answers. So it's sometimes a little frustrating, yes. That's like, for instance, right now, when the cruise lines has like a percentage off of their drink package, and they're also going through some kind of upgrade with their website. So something that I normally do not get involved with, like purchases of a drink package, whatever, my clients are having a hard time with getting it. So
What's the wait time been? That's the thing that always fascinates me. Our wait times. So what we've seen, at least with the cruise line, is it seems like they're canceling their cruises 30 days at a time. And when those cancellations get announced, of course, that brings in a flood of people, your clients, that need to cancel, rebook, that kind of thing. Is that 30-day at a time approach, does that seem like it's been a way to control the flood of people that need to call a cruise line? Or like, how's it work? Like, the first week the whole time's bad and then it gets better, and then when another cancellation happens, it gets worse again? Or what do you think's happening?
What I think is happening is that they're pulling people out from training earlier than what they need to be. Like on their phones, they go through a certain training. I think that they're also pulling people out from everywhere, all the different departments that they have. So What I think is that the hold times have decreased, but what you're getting in return, like then I'm just put on hold, like for the same amount of time that would be on hold to talk to someone that knew what policy they were talking about, instead of putting me on hold to talk to a supervisor because they've been pulled too quickly on the phone.
So it sounds like they've put enough people in place to get the phones answered quickly.
Initially, yes.
But the resolution time is slower.
Right.
That could be frustrating.
It's sometimes frustrating because then what happens is you're on hold and they try to transfer you and you get disconnected.
Yeah, that's the worst. And we used to have,
and I give them a callback number, but most of the time, they cannot call out.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
All right, but it's part of the deal, right?
It is. It's part of the deal. It's part of what we are, it's part of what I do.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, I do that so the guests do not have to.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the cool thing that I've seen during this. I've seen people now all of a sudden with future cruise credits not really sure what to do. At least you have you're even though it could be frustrating, you know how to navigate
That's
that.
right.
You know how to navigate that process.
Right.
Well, I'm hoping that gets better. I can see as this continues to go on, at least the shutdown, I guess I would speculate that, so most of the cruise lines right now, they are scheduled to come back online at the end of April or early in May.
Right.
And now with this information released by the CDC, I would anticipate within the next couple of weeks there'll be an announcement of maybe another set of cancellations. It'll be interesting to see that if the cruise line just cancels 30 days. So say the CDC, say it's 100 days.
Right.
Say that puts it out into June. Will the cruise line just cancel like the rest of May and June? Or will they go all the way for the 100 days? Will they just do 30 days at a time? It's going to be interesting to see. I
think they're just going to do 30 days at a time because, quite honestly, the CDC can pull that back.
They can change, yeah, because those other two conditions do exist.
Right.
And things are changing in the dynamic of the virus. Things,
right.
Hopefully things are getting better in that way.
Right. I think that what we need to also express, right, is that everybody wants to get out on the ocean, right? We all want to get on the sea and on a ship and just enjoy that cruise life. But I think that what is happening too is that some people are rebooking too quickly. So like if something is canceled, then they're booking, a month later or 2 months later. I think maybe we should wait until like fall.
Honestly, I think that's good advice, right? Because I'm with you. I want to get on a cruise ship just as soon as possible.
Right.
But the reality is, and we've seen this in the cancellations, people got canceled early and then they rebooked for like the next month and then they got canceled and then they, it's a process. It's a frustrating process for the individual that their cruise keeps. There's a level of stress.
It hurts my heart for them.
There's a level of stress that we're waiting to hear if this Princess cruise canceled. There's a level of stress that goes along with it.
Absolutely.
And so if all of a sudden you're rebooking month after month, you can definitely sense the stress in the I've talked with a couple people that's exactly it. Like, I got canceled in March and then I rebooked, late April and now I'm canceled again.
Right.
So what I'm telling people when they ask me, I'm like, I would wait, just can't, you've got the future cruise credit maybe in the fall. But until something becomes more clear, I wouldn't just sign right back up for the next month.
Right. And I mean, most cruise lines are being very, gracious with how long they're letting their future cruise credits be used. So
yeah, they're trying to make it pretty easy to use it. Well, Jenny, what do you miss most about cruising?
I miss that I don't have to clean my room. I miss somebody cooking for us.
So many dishes in our house.
I know.
How often were we eating out every week?
I mean, I guess a lot, right?
So this is what I've learned in isolation. So we ran out of paper plates.
It was a bad day.
So maybe more important than toilet paper are paper plates.
For us, right? Because it's only two of us, but I don't know how we come up with so much trash, how we get so many dishes. I can't I can't wrap my head around it because I feel like it's only two of us. I mean, sometimes we would have 5, 7 people, sometimes 8 people
Yeah.
in the home for a long weekend. And I never had trash like that. And maybe it's because the kids used to actually do help. Like maybe that's what I'm going to see in my head right now, right? That they took out the trash, that they did dishes when they were younger. When they were teenagers, they didn't want to do anything.
Yeah, so we went without, and this all sounds like super first world problems, but we did go for about 4 or 5 days without paper plates. And man, the amount of dishes that piled up, and then we're both looking at each other like, I don't know, are we going to do rock, paper, scissors? Is there going to be some sort of trade-off? There's a lot of dishes in there. Like, oh yeah, there is a lot of dishes in there. But yeah, so it's, I think that's what I'm going to say. The hardest part so far of the isolation is the dishes. The weird thing for us, so we don't really have a sense of the shutdown because before the shutdown, we didn't leave the house much. This is where we work. Mm-hmm. We work in the same place where we live, and other than to go see family or maybe go out to eat or just to grab a coffee, we weren't out in the world a whole lot. So for us, life hasn't changed too much. We're still working in the same place. We're still, the dynamics of our work has changed. Obviously, travel business is down. The YouTube creation stuff is down. But the way that we live our lives, not that much different other than this idea that we don't leave.
It's funny, right? Because at the beginning I was like, ooh, people can't say like, Jenny, how come you don't get out of the house? And but now I'm kind of to the point that I'm like, I really can't wait to go out and share a cup of coffee with you somewhere or, a meal together, like this weekend, No, absolutely. It's Easter, it's Easter.
It's weird. It's weird not being able to go out on Easter, go to a service if we want to go to a service or.
Right. But I have seen a lot of people, have meals together via FaceTime or, Zoom. Some kind of cool people doing some cool things.
Well, I think that's a big deal. That's something we haven't really done a whole lot. We haven't really done a lot of FaceTiming. And I think maybe we're to the point where we want to. Like I mentioned I got to have a good conversation with our friend Don in Canada.
Right.
And so for about an hour and a half, I got to interact with him, at least see somebody else and have a conversation. And it's really weird. I left the house for the first time in 3 weeks just the other day, and I was a little nervous about the whole thing. But and you got to go out and just a little bit, so I don't know. So for us, it's the same, but it's different. Like there just comes those times where we can't really leave the house, but
right. Like I haven't seen my mom in
I was gonna say
a month.
We live 5 minutes from your mom, but we're trying to make sure we stay away because we don't want to,
Yeah, I mean, if I have anything, I would not want to bring it to her.
Right. And then, of course, the other thing that I wonder about is, like when I was in Asia, there is such a culture over there where people wear face masks a lot.
Right.
And
when you were there, because this was way before this virus, they just wore them anyway, right?
Yeah. I mean, because they've had challenges with viruses and stuff in the past, I think that just wearing a mask became part of their culture. Mm-hmm. And the idea behind wearing a mask is whether you are sick or not sick, the mask is kind of like a social agreement that I'm going to wear this mask, so if I do have something, I'm not going to give it to you.
Right.
And that's really kind of the social contract there. So I don't know if we're going to see that more and more here in the U.S. The Dr. Fauci, who is one of the disease experts and of course on the virus task force, he's saying wear a mask and don't ever shake hands again. And I think shaking hands and touching each other is such a part of the American culture.
Right.
That's going to be hard to not try to shake some hands. Like I completely understand the rationale behind it, but I just wonder as a culture if we can make that. We're so individualistic and we're so like we're going to do what we want. I just wonder how hard it's going to be to make that transition to not touch other people.
It's going to be very hard.
Yeah.
Right? Like I like to hug people. I like to, kiss people on the cheek or whatever. And It's going to be really hard for me.
I'd like to get one of them kisses on the cheek from time to time.
Come here. Let me give you one.
We're so far apart. We're socially distanced. We're socially distanced. Yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be like a whole new world. I think.
Like that song.
A whole new
A
world.
whole new world. No, it truly is, right? Like it's going to be, like I mentioned before, our lives were never the same after 9/11 here in the United States, and I think that the whole world is never, this is, it's just going to be different.
It's going to be interesting. So I feel like that too. I think that it'll be interesting. I don't know how we set a reminder or something, but it would be interesting to come back in a year and see how different things are, or if it's just forgotten, right? Like everything, it seems like everything's so intense in the moment,
right?
Which it is. I mean, there's a lot of intensity right now, but it'll be interesting to see if life has changed in a year. And I could see that it would.
Absolutely.
It'll be interesting just to mark this moment in time and go, okay,
this is when it all changed. People started working from home more. I think that companies are going to realize that their employees can work from home, and these big office buildings may be empty for a long time. I think that, restaurants that we knew for 30 plus years may not be able to come through it.
Yeah, that's the sad thing. Like the food service industry, I mean, the restaurant business is a tight business anyways, from margin and all that kind of stuff, profitability. If this goes on very long, where at least the guidelines that we're under here in the United States are being asked to stay at home, or being asked to social distance, not congregate with people, more than groups of 10, not go eat in restaurants. And so, most restaurants don't allow you to go eat there. It's all, pick up. So yeah, if they don't start putting people in those seats in those restaurants sometime soon, I think there's a lot of restaurants that are at risk of going out of business, which would just be a shame. And then the other thing that you mentioned, and I saw it, I used to work for a large bank. I was a contract worker for a large bank in Charlotte. Right. And they started having this conversation outside of the idea of a crisis. Like, why are we paying all this money for big buildings, everybody to have their own, cubicle, that kind of thing? And they started trying to figure out how they could reduce the amount of space, the amount of money they're spending on housing workers. So I bet you this is going to be eye-opening to a lot of businesses that say, wow, everybody got the job done.
That's right.
And we didn't spend a lot of money on facilities. So I agree with you. I think there could be a big change that way. I know that I'm going to be working from home after this.
I'm hoping that I am too.
we are always working from home. No, it's pretty interesting. So in the downtime, we've been working.
We have been.
And we've been watching a lot of TV.
We have been. What have we been watching, Tony? What is our guilty pleasure lately?
Well, okay, so it started off a few weeks ago, and we watched Tiger King on Netflix.
Right.
The crazy drama.
Everybody I look at has that's their binge right now.
I think
which
everybody.
Is awesome.
So since everybody's watched it, let's speculate. Why do you think Tiger King was so popular? What drew you to the Tiger King show? Because I know once we started watching it, it's like I couldn't not watch the next episode.
I think for me, what it was, it's just so unbelievable of a lifestyle that you couldn't not watch it. You wanted to know what was going to happen next, because it's just a lifestyle that not many people are in.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, there were so many things in that documentary. So first of all, if you just made a documentary about these people that had these zoos, right?
Right.
That would have been enough.
I mean, that's interesting in itself.
The fact that this guy could raise all these tigers, and the guy in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, that had, all those other animals and a whole harem of women.
Right.
That was pretty interesting on its own.
Right. And then you have, a woman that may or may not have killed her husband.
Right. That, like, the thing about that show is, in the beginning you're like, oh, this is a documentary about big cats, and then you're like,
right, that's what
then
you're
like,
it
oh,
was.
this is a documentary about two people that are feuding with each other.
Well, it was like a soap opera.
Right. And then it's like, oh, this is a documentary about maybe this woman killed her husband. And then you're like, oh, this is a documentary about how this interesting character's got 3 husbands and he might be the governor of a state.
And the president.
Yeah, and then, oh, this is a story about the murder for hire plot with a hitman sitting in a bathtub.
Wow. It's so many things. I think what fascinated me about it as well, right, is that, listen, I'm super, not that I'm afraid of cats, but maybe I'm afraid of cats, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't want them to bite me. I don't like to be scratched. It just scares me a little, some of the things. So I couldn't imagine being in a cage with these massive, beautiful animals.
That could kill you.
That could kill you.
Yeah. So that takes a whole level of gumption on its own, right?
Right.
This is what, I guess that's what blew my mind about Tiger King. Like the fact that you're playing with these large animals, that should have been enough. Like, I think that's enough. But no, like there was so many different facets. I don't know. I would definitely recommend Tiger King.
And then what I got from it too, I love the fact when somebody's passion is also their financial means.
Their vocation, right?
Right. So
Yeah.
I just think that was a fascination about it as well. You know, their love for these animals.
Right. That's okay. That is the crazy thing. So we're like that also. We're pursuing our passion in a non-traditional way, right? We're trying to make our way in this travel business, and it was this story just you couldn't make it up. I think that was you couldn't make it up, and you couldn't look away. It would be like if we had some crazy drama with like another cruise creator or something like that,
right?
You know, where we're making diss tracks and we're and the guy, like, even though it was fake, he like had a country music career also. Like they would, you'd be like all hooked into the cats and the feud with the lady, and then all of a sudden he would be like a country music star.
It was wild.
I think what it is, and I think the culture in general, they like to people watch a little bit, and they like a little bit of drama. So some of the other shows that we watch pretty regularly is we watch Survivor, the old school reality show Survivor.
Love it.
And we watch it just for the drama. Mm-hmm. And then we've been watching Love Island.
Love Island is our new guilty pleasure.
Who would have thought that we would have liked Love Island?
I don't know, but we've been watching it till like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, so we watched the UK version, which I think the show became a hit in the UK first.
Right.
It's a really shallow premise. They take really pretty people.
Right.
They put them in a house together, and then they try to get them to become boyfriend and girlfriend.
Right.
Like the goal is that they find love. But the thing that makes that show so appealing is the level of drama.
It's insane.
It's
and I like the fact too that I can compare. So now they've moved it also to Australia and to the United States as well.
Yes.
So you can compare, these 20-something-year-olds from all different countries, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool too to see the differences.
And we have 20-something-year-olds. So not only are we like, okay, the kids, and we're going to call them kids because they're kids.
Right.
The kids in the U.S. are definitely different from the kids in the UK.
Absolutely.
The kids in Australia are different than both.
Right.
And then all these people are different than our kids, which is like, I know that we've projected in our minds, like, what if like our sons and daughters were in the show? How crazy.
I couldn't even.
How crazy it would be.
No.
So we've been watching that, and we've been watching Homeland.
Right, I love Homeland.
Homeland, Top Chef, This Is Us, and Lego Master. Mm-hmm. And then a bunch of YouTube. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What don't you know?
I don't know. Like, it's so weird in the lockdown. Like, we're not really ones to get out and exercise anyways. And
Right.
so this situation almost like gives you a pass. Like, okay, you can stay home because you have to.
Right.
Maybe you can eat a little bit more because you're stuck at home. Maybe you can exercise a little less because you're stuck at home. Maybe you can watch some more TV. I don't know that that's the right path, but that's definitely the path that I'm on. And I know at the end of the day, I got to shake out of that, and I got to get on a different path. But right now, I'm like, oh, I like this. I can sleep late. I can work a little bit, get some stuff going on, and then I can chill out with my lady, watch some TV, have some good food, and do it all again the next day.
Right, but maybe we
like
should
it.
start thinking about it differently, right? Like maybe we should eat what we want, get some exercise, and like empty out our garage. The silence from Tony. I finally got some silence.
So we've talked about
I know how to ruin a good thing, don't I?
we talked about this before. I have not prohibited you from emptying out anything in the garage.
But I'm afraid if there's a snake out there or a bug.
I will get anything out of the garage that you want.
All right, well then I guess I should empty out the boxes that we already have in the house.
I've already brought boxes in that have just been languishing, still packed.
Yeah, because I just don't know what to do with it at all.
So back to hitting the couch, watching some TV.
What are we gonna watch tonight?
This is our virus story. We are having to chill out and watch more TV. Nah, I don't know. Like, it seems like it's in phases, and I don't know if there's anything that's rational behind this. But like in the beginning, you're like, oh, we shouldn't leave the house. That's
right.
wild. So every day we're like, oh, we still can't leave the house. That's wild. And then enough time's gone by, you're like, oh, I got to figure out what I'm going to do at the house. And then you got this little work routine down. And then you go a little further and you go, well, I got to maybe do more while I'm at the house. It's so weird how it goes in phases. And you just keep waiting for it to end. You're like, oh, when the thing ends, life will be different and I'll have a different routine. But the longer it goes, it's like, well, maybe we have to force that routine on ourselves.
Right.
I just want to unpack boxes in the garage. That's,
Yeah.
But I can never get you to do that with me. So.
All right. Well, I'm making a pact with you right now that I will give you a couple of hours this week to do that. Why are you shaking your head?
I wasn't. No.
I won't give you the hours, or you're really not. You don't really want to do that.
What?
Which one is it?
My headphones aren't working. I don't know what's going on.
Well, it's because you don't have them on.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. So, you mentioned it. We can't go see your mom.
I know.
We can't go see your brother. What else are you missing while you're in the quarantine?
I'm missing my friend Charlotte.
Missing your friend Charlotte.
I'm missing Dunkin' Donuts coffee, iced coffee.
Oh, yeah. I know we've saved a lot of money during the isolation.
Yeah. Missing my sister and nieces. Missing all the kids.
We're missing everybody.
I am.
That's the first thing I want to do once we can travel around is just go see the people we haven't been able to see for the last month or two.
Exactly. Well, and hopefully some of them want to come see us.
Maybe. I don't know.
So we don't have to travel the country.
I don't know. Maybe so. That would be kind of cool. I remember what I wanted to ask you. So you mentioned that you're fascinated by the big cats. If you could have any pet,
right?
What pet would you have?
I would have a toy poodle.
A toy poodle like our old dog?
Yeah.
Let's see if I can get Jenny to cry. Don't you miss Lady?
Oh, my gosh.
She's so sweet.
Why are you doing
just come home every day and be like, oh, Lady.
Oh, stop.
So you would want a dog again?
I would.
I don't know what I would want.
I just would want either a toy poodle or a Yorkie.
I think I would want a cat if I knew it wouldn't scratch everything up, if I knew that I didn't have to change the litter box. I don't know. They seem pretty low maintenance, but there's some things, like I would just hate all my furniture to get scratched up or something.
Right.
Can we get a cat?
I mean, if you're going to take care of it and
No, I'm
doesn't
not gonna take
scratch
care of
me.
it. It's all on you.
Nope.
All on you. One of the interesting things on Love Island is at some point they have to take care of a fake baby.
I wonder if we would pass.
Does that make you miss having the baby?
No. It actually makes me be very thankful that our children are older and out of the changing of diaper phase. Well, because at one time when we first got married, there was 2 kids in diapers at the same time.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is going on here?
Yeah, I don't miss that new baby cry.
No.
I mean, I love all of our kids, but I'm glad that we had our kids young. And
well, and listen, everybody knows we're a blended family, right?
Yeah.
So we weren't around for all of the kids' newbornness.
right.
And, so my biological children are a girl and a boy.
Yeah.
The girl was the first. She was an angel. Didn't cry. She slept through the night. She was potty trained and walked by 1 year old.
Wow.
So, I mean, like she was, and I'm like, wow, I should really probably try this again.
Yeah.
Because it was not, too bad. And then my son came along. whew, that boy, he wasn't potty trained until he was like 2, and then he was colic,
Yeah.
and it was just horrific.
Yeah, I don't remember my experiences individually with my kids. I just remember that new baby cry, that one that would wake you up in the middle of the night. I don't miss it, but I'm happy I've gone through that experience. But.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I can remember there was some nights, right, like, because you become so sleep deprived,
Right.
you know, that I would just sit there with them, and I remember rubbing my son's head and, you know, patting him on his back to burp him and stuff like that, and I remember saying, God, is this ever going to change?
Will this ever stop?
Will this ever stop with this kid waking up every hour and then having to go to work, you know, in a couple of hours, and you're like, please go back to bed. I love you. And you know what? It's so worth it though, right? Like to go through all that, to go through it all, it just has been well worth the ride.
It's 100% worth it. But what you just said really kind of made me realize that that's the way a lot of life is. Like in the moment, you're like, wow, is this going to end? Is this going to change? And then it does.
Right.
And then you go on to the next thing. So I know I've had my moments during this time where I'm like, is this going to end? Is this going to change? You know, because something that's affected the world globally like this, like you said, we've never seen it in our life. Mm-hmm. But history, at least our life history, tells us that at some point it will change, it will end, and it'll go on to something else. So that at least there's some positive hope there.
Absolutely.
Which is kind of exciting. I'm just ready to get on a cruise.
I'm ready to travel. I'm ready to see people. I'm ready for us to have the opportunity, if we wanted to get out of the house.
It's crazy. I was supposed to be in Las Vegas today. I was just supposed to be taking a casual trip to Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm. With your brother and your boys.
Yeah, with my brother and some friends from the cruising community. And who would have thought that just something simple like going to Vegas wouldn't be possible?
Right.
And I only booked that a couple months ago. So it's wild stuff.
It is.
It's wild stuff.
So, Tony, when we get back to cruising, what have you missed the most?
What have I missed the most cruising?
Yeah.
Live entertainment. I
can entertain you. I can entertain you. I can dance. I can sing. We can make up our own entertainment.
Yeah, okay. Yeah? And I can simulate the casino for you. Just pull my arm and I'll throw money on the floor.
Okay.
Wow, fun.
You just take my money out of my pocket.
Wow, fun. Not exactly the same thing. Okay. Yeah, no, I do. I miss I just miss the fact. My favorite thing about cruising is that you can sleep as late as you want.
Right.
You can get up and you can always find some interesting food.
Right.
And then in the evening, you can have a night of shows and just chilling out. I love it. I mean, mm-hmm. I like sitting out on the deck and looking at the sea. The cool thing is, like, you know, people go to the mountains to contemplate the grandeur of the universe.
Right.
Or people will go, you know, to a town where there's great restaurants so they can be a foodie. Or people will go to the casino so they can gamble. Or people will go to places where there's live entertainment. I like the cruise because you can do all that in one trip.
That's right.
Right? Like, I like being contemplative as much as the next person, but I don't want to do it all day.
Well, and you don't have to waste time moving from hotel to hotel.
Yeah.
And driving to the next place you're going to be.
My favorite thing about that cruise life is nobody really knows how many times in a week I wear the same pair of shorts. Like, you pack all these clothes, and you're like, are those the same khaki shorts you had on embarkation day 4 days ago? I don't know. Maybe. Who's asking? They don't smell. They don't smell. Like, nobody's checking that kind of thing out. I like it. I just like the fact that.
Well, I think that's what's so wonderful about Downy. Wrinkle Release smells great, and Febreze.
That's right.
For you, right?
Yeah. Look, I think I could go on a cruise with just like 2 pairs of shorts and a pair of slacks.
You probably could.
I'm gonna do it.
No, you're not.
I'm gonna try it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I miss the live entertainment and, you know, watching stuff on TV, and it's not the same. Like, you know, I like going out to the movie theater, and you can't do that. So, yeah.
Right.
I'm looking forward to having a little you know, and again, we kind of hitched our horse to this idea that traveling would be what we do for work and play.
Right.
And it's, you know, it's like we still have the work part, but we don't have the play part. And it's hard to do some of our work without going on these ships and, you know, seeing new things. So I miss that. I miss that aspect of the work that we do. We're missing the go out and see stuff on the ship part of it, which is a little bit of a bummer.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
A little bit of a bummer.
Yeah.
Well, you miss the casino, Jenny. Let's be honest.
I mean, I miss the casino. I miss reliving it with the vlogs afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, just I miss it all.
What do you like most about being stuck at home with me? Let me focus on you here.
That I actually realize that our relationship is really wonderful. I don't feel like we're having too many disagreements. I think we had one or two.
Have we had disagreements?
I don't really know.
I don't know. I'm so quick to forgive and move on loving you that I can't.
Please.
They don't even
You
come
are
to
the
mind.
biggest grudge holder.
Why would you say I'm a grudge holder?
You're a grudge holder.
You're a grudge holder. You've got things,
I'm not going to deny that.
you got things written down in your mind and a little book, the grudge book that comes out when we fight. Don't hold grudges, people.
No, that's like kitchen sink. You shouldn't they call it kitchen sink fighting.
Because you throw everything at them plus the kitchen sink.
That's right.
Oh, yeah, I know there's some flashpoints. You know what you can say to me to make me mad, and I know what I can say to you to make you mad.
Right, but like, why do people do that to each other, right?
Hurt people.
Yeah, but it's so, like, it's crazy, right? Because you're my person, right?
My ride or die, as they
Right,
say.
like, you're my person. And, like, I guess when you hurt me, like, I do want to hurt you right back.
Right.
And that's so bad.
It's weird because, so what I think it is,
Okay.
this is my armchair psychologist,
All right, let's hear it.
is when you are truly committed to somebody in a relationship emotionally, right? Like, you know, getting married, that's a ritual. You know, saying you're committed, that's something you could say, you can intellectualize. But if you've actually opened up your heart, you've dropped your walls to say, look, I'm going to be completely emotionally vulnerable to another person.
Right.
You don't ever want anybody to trample on that, because I think for most people that is a hard place to get to, where you say, look, I'm just gonna lay down myself and connect with you one-on-one. And so when you get hurt at that level, I think that's why you want to hurt somebody back, because you're like, I've given you everything that I can. I've opened myself up completely to you, and then you caused me pain.
Right.
So I'm going to do it back.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I don't know, maybe we're just reactionary like that. And I think maybe we hurt each other to see if it's actually there. Because have you ever tried to make somebody mad that they don't really care? Right? Yeah. I think that's why the person that you're closest to, you try to hurt them just to make sure that it's real. You're like, all right, you hurt me in a way that I really feel it. Let me see if I can do that back. And if you don't really feel it, then where the heck are we at in this place? Because I'm feeling stuff that you're not. I think that's why people try to hurt each other on deep levels, just a gut check, just to see if it's real.
Well, and maybe that's what I've learned then in this time. After 18 years, it's real.
Oh, really? Because I knew right away.
Aww.
I knew right away. I'm sorry that you
You
dragged
are
your
such
feet.
a sweetheart.
That's what I'm dealing with, folks. 18 years, you don't know if you're connecting. Well, it was a good 18-year run. Let's just say that.
You're silly.
That is true. So we're coming up on knowing each other for 18 years.
It is.
April the
Isn't that
14th, we've
crazy?
decided, is our getting to know each other. The first time we spoke to each other.
Yeah, 2 more days.
It's crazy.
18 years.
Crazy. Crazy.
And like you said, like we were talking about the babies
Yeah.
and the kids, you know, like you look back at those 18 years ago, right? And you're like, oh, I can't do this again. You know, him leaving to go back home to Tennessee, and how we can do this.
Yeah, it's been a journey. That's what we were saying today. Like, so we met when we were about 30.
Yeah, we were still youngins.
Yeah. And then, you know, we've spent 18 years together.
And we've grown a little older.
And then in another 18 years, we're going to be close to 70 years old.
It's pretty amazing.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
It's pretty, I hope we're still cruising for the next 18 years.
Oh, we will be.
We've only been cruising for about 3 years. And so, yeah.
Yeah. What's kind of cool, though, about cruising, right, is that, you know, throughout life, like you become, at least the way we work, right? We indulge ourselves in something and then we get tired of it.
Yeah.
Right? Like we'll love something and then it gets boring to us after a while. But I feel like with cruising, it's so different every time you're out there that you can't get bored. You know, and there's so many different cruise lines and there's so many different ships that you just can't get bored.
I do think it's a testimony, and I guess we could still be talking about relationships. We both do get bored pretty easy. And so the fact that we've pushed through ups and downs and stayed together for 18 years, pretty impressive.
It is pretty
Congratulations.
impressive.
That's pretty impressive that we haven't figured out other things to do, that our commitment and our love has been that strong. And then, yeah, I kind of feel the same way about cruising. Like I'm very happy to go from one interesting thing to another. But for me, I've just been trying to find out the interesting thing of cruising to keep it fresh for me. And that's why I like to go on the different cruise ships. I like to go to different places. I think I would get bored just doing the same thing over and over.
Yeah, I think so.
I think I'm going to get bored when I go to Alaska.
No, you're not.
Alaska better
Alaska's gonna
be banging.
beautiful.
It better be fun.
It's going to be gorgeous.
Yeah, I don't know.
Uh-oh.
Could you make more noise with that
Did you
straw?
hear that slurp?
Are you out of drink?
I'm out of drink.
All right. Well, maybe that means it's time to end the podcast. It feels like a very contemplative podcast.
It's been a really great time hanging out with you. And
Well,
yeah.
Obviously. I mean, obviously. I mean, of course. I mean, obviously.
Duh.
Duh. All right, guys, I think we're going to get out of here. Thanks for hanging out as we've rambled on this week. I hope that at least we're a little bit of a distraction. I know we talked a lot about what's going on in the world, but look, be encouraged. This will pass. I keep saying it. And again, there's a lot of reminders out there that life kind of works this way. You get in the middle of something, it seems very challenging, and then you get out of it and you go back to the next happy time. So, the cool thing about this is that we're in it now. So happy times hopefully will be around the corner.
I agree. You know, even if it's, 6 months down the road or a year down the road or 2 months from now, it's a beautiful thing that we're coming through.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. If you enjoyed it, please leave us a review on your favorite podcasting platform. There is a video version of this podcast. It's at the Lido Loca podcast channel on YouTube. If you'd like to support the podcast, we'd be happy and excited if you would join us over on Patreon. If you would like some extra content, some extra videos, some extra interaction, we would love for you to support the creativity that way. Come join us at www.patreon.com/Lido Loca. And also, if you would like help with your future cruise credits, if you'd like help booking some cruises, Jenny is the travel agent with the mostest, bestest skills that I know. She books all of our travel. She's booked thousands of cruises. Consider using her as your travel agent. You can reach out to her at jbarnette, JBARNETTE, at cruiseshipcenters.com. And if you want to come and hang out with a lot of cruisers, 11,000 strong, join us at the Lido Loca cruising community on Facebook. And that's pretty much it for the commercials, Jenny.
Is that it?
That's it. Thank you for joining us for episode 15 of the Lido Loca Cruising Podcast. My name's Tony.
And I'm Jenny.
And we are Lido Loca. And until the next time,
We'll see you on the Lido.
we'll see you on the Lido.
Bye.
Bye.